Ba 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 bum 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 ba 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 bum 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 ba da ba do ba da ba bum dum dum ba ba bum dum 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 do do boom do boom do boom do boom do boom boom boom. Hey guys, how you doing? Freestyle, skate, oddity, content, Alpal621. Glad to see you guys. Anybody else out there not actually sleeping? Anybody else out there? How are you doing out there, Baldy? Good to see you. I haven't been sleeping very much at all. I feel like the United States has finally, we've crossed the Rubicon. We are no longer we're no longer in a position where we can use the maybe they're just dumb defense, right? Like there's this sort of apologetics of empire that has always been used, which is I forget the name of the rule, but it's never attribute to malice what can be significantly or substantially explained through incompetence. Basically, don't assume they're evil, just assume they're stupid, right? And that's kind of the defense that got used by George W. Bush, essentially. That the rehabilitation of George W. Bush and the society's lack of desire to simply just call him a Nazi basically boils down to, Georgie. You know, his George's heart was in the right place, you know. Georgie, you know, he wanted to do good out there. He wanted to spread democracy. He wanted to spread, you know, freedom into the society. Sure, he made some mistakes, you know. We all make mistakes. And President of the United States is a difficult position to hold, you know. And guy's got a difficult job. And, you know, just sometimes you make a call, and sometimes it's the wrong call, and sometimes you try your best and you don't succeed, you know. And so good old Georgie went out there and he tried to do his best, and he did his best, you know, and maybe, you know, maybe you wouldn't have done the same thing, but maybe he would have done the same thing, and when he did the same thing, you know, maybe it was okay. You know, he's just so, Georgie's just, you know, he's a good old boy. He's a guy I'd like to go have a drink with, and, you know, I like to have a drink with George W. Bush, and he seems like an alright guy. I saw him on Ellen, and Michelle Obama likes him, so, you know, he's an alright guy by me, even though he murdered 1 million people in Iraq, you know, you're a good old boy. Right? That's essentially the defense that we routinely, continuously hear of white supremacist and obvious fascist George W. Bush. If anybody tries to use that defense for these guys, for Donald Trump and his administration, I will just assume that you're a Nazi apologist. The reason why I say so, this is really what's making me lose sleep. This one's really what's making me finally lose sleep. I'm going to read this article. I'm going to read this article in its entirety. It's been a long time since I've read an article in its entirety on stream. I don't know if it's, good content. If people are like, oh boy, I can't wait. I can't wait for John to spend 20 minutes reading a article written by a fringe author criticizing the United States empire. I kind of stopped doing that on stream, not because I think it's bad to do. It's just that I think that articles stopped becoming relevant. Our articles essentially fell into two baskets, I found. Basket number one was
Can you believe that? Which was essentially just the author being like, wow, look at this very obvious and clear thing that is being stated over and over and over and over and over again. Can you believe it? And I'm like, yep, I can. Yeah, I can believe it. And then bucket 2 was, here's a policy we should follow. Here's something we should do. And I kind of started to notice that nobody was actually being like, hey, maybe we should overthrow these guys. Maybe these guys are not worth our time and effort at all, and we should stop participating. Maybe we should incarcerate them. Maybe they should go to jail, perhaps. And so I just feel like the system itself has become incapable of responding really to what's going on in a serious way, because it's just so blistering. It's so just like overwrought and ridiculous. I just don't think people know how to respond to what they're looking at. So, which is fine, but it doesn't mean I have to read the same thing over and over again, right? Can you believe it? Yes, I can. Well, here was a moment where I was like, oh, can I believe it? Like, can I believe it? That we're actually, like, I've been saying it on the stream, right? They're going to do it openly. It's going to be open, right? It's going to be no excuses, no bullshit, no nonsense. We are Homelander. What are you going to do about it? Oh, you're protesting. Here's a lynch. Here's a crucifix. Like, nail you up on a board. This is what you do, right? It's going to be that kind of stuff. And this article was a real like, oh, it's happening actually. Like it is. It's actually happening. And it's going to be in the open, and it's going to be completely naked, and it's just going to be no nonsense Nazism with the salutes and everything. Subscribe, maybe. Good to see you, Joe. Good to see you, Joe Anthony. John Gutro, long time no see. Hope you're well out there, John. Haven't seen you around in a while. Peanut Butter Beatrice, haven't. Hello. Didn't miss you. So let's just do the article. Pentagon reveals attacks in Latin America are just the beginning. This is from The Intercept by Nick Terse. With Operation Total Extermination and Trump's threats against Cuba, expect more U.S. military strikes in the region. As the Trump administration continues to bombard Iran, a top Pentagon official revealed that U.S. wars in the Western Hemisphere are also expanding, unveiling an effort dubbed Operation Total Extermination. Attacks on Latin American drug cartels are just the beginning. Joseph Humire, the acting Assistant Secretary of War for Homeland Defense and America's Security Affairs, told members of the House Armed Services Committee last week. Humire indicated that many more strikes in Latin America are on the horizon. The comments came a day after President Donald Trump again teased American annexation of Cuba. I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba, Trump said last week. Whether I free it, take it, I think I can do anything I want with it. Humire announced that the Department of War supported bilateral kinetic actions against cartel targets along the Colombia-Ecuador border. Pentagon speak for March 3 strikes on unnamed designated terrorist organizations previously reported by The Intercept. The joint effort, named Operation Total Extermination, is the start of a military offensive by Ecuador against transnational criminal organizations with the support of the U.S., he said. The U.S. Ecuadorian campaign has already strayed into Colombia after a farm was bombed or hit by ricochet effect on March 3rd, leaving an unexploded 500-pound bomb lying in Colombia's border region. The response to a request for comment, U.S. Southern Command referred the intercept to a statement on X by the Ecuadorian Ministry of Defense confirming the bomb landed in Colombia. Humeyer referred to the attacks as joint land strikes and said that America was providing Ecuador with capabilities that they would otherwise not have. The U.S. has since conducted at least one more strike with Ecuador. Yes, as At POTUS has said, we are bombing narco-terrorists on land as well, self-styled War Secretary Pete Hegseth wrote on X on March 6th, announcing the new strike. Days later, in a War Powers report announcing the introduction of U.S. armed forces into hostilities in that country, the White House informed Congress of military action taken on March 6, 2026 against the facilities of narco-terrorists affiliated with a designated terrorist organization. The attacks in Ecuador are also part of and an expansion of Operation Southern Spear, the U.S. military's illegal campaign of strikes on boats in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific Ocean. The U.S. has conducted 46 attacks since September 2025, destroying 48 vessels and killing almost 160 civilians. The latest strike on March 19th in the Pacific killed 2 more people and left 1 survivor. The Trump administration claims its victims are members of at least one of 24 or more cartels and criminal gangs with whom it claims to be at war, but refuses to name. This administration is barely paying lip service to the constitutional or international law governing the use of force, but we have these rules for a reason, said Rebecca Ingber, a former State Department lawyer and now a law professor at the Cardozo Law School in New York. Rushing to war on one man's whims is the exact opposite of what the Constitution demands. General Francis Donovan, the Southcom commander, told lawmakers last week that boat strikes are not the answer, but teased an even larger campaign. What we're moving for right now might be an extension of Southern Spear, but really a counter-cartel campaign process that puts total systemic friction across this network, he told members of the Senate Armed Services Committee. I believe these kinetic boat strikes are just one small part of that. Humeyer could not say how many land strikes were being conducted across almost 20 Latin American and Caribbean nations. I don't have an exact number, he replied to a question, but when asked by Representative Adam Smith from Washington, the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, if the War Department would be moving to a lot more terrestrial strikes, Humeyer replied, yes, ranking member. The Office of the Secretary of War did not respond to a request to clarify how great that increase might be. Humeyer said the U.S. Ecuadorian campaign was setting the pace for regional deterrence-focused operations against cartel infrastructure throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. The word deterrence has become a popular Pentagon euphemism for the use of lethal strikes, in contrast to previous efforts to U.S. government efforts to marshal economic, diplomatic, and military means to convince adversaries to abandon a specific course of action. Deterrence has a signaling effect on narco-terrorists and raises the risks with their movements, Humeyer claimed. In January, the U.S. attacked Venezuela and abducted the country's president, Nicolas Maduro. It now rules the country through a puppet regime. Federal prosecutors have reportedly drafted a criminal indictment against Venezuelan interim president Delcy Rodriguez, threatening her with corruption and money laundering charges if she does not continue to do the bidding of the Trump administration. Trump also recently teased the possibility of making Venezuela the 51st U.S. state. The Trump administration is reportedly undertaking a regime change operation in Cuba, attempting to push out President Miguel Diaz-Canel as a requirement for negotiations between the U.S. and that island nation. U.S. officials are said to favor Raul Guillermo Rodriguez Castro, the grandson of 94-year-old Raul Castro, the former Cuban president and brother to Fidel, the leader of Cuba from 1959 to 2008. Diaz-Canel referenced U.S. plans to seize the country on X late Tuesday and said the U.S. would be met with impregnable resistance. "I am holding Cuba," Trump said recently, noting his costly regime change war in the Middle East takes precedence at the moment. "We're going to do Iran before Cuba." Trump imposed an oil blockade on Cuba in January, plunging the country into a humanitarian crisis. The island's national electric grid has already collapsed 3 times this month, with one blackout lasting more than 29 hours. UN human rights experts have condemned Trump's fuel blockade on Cuba as a serious violation of international law and a grave threat to a democratic and equitable international order. Trump, who has recently spoken of taking Cuba, is the latest in a long line of U.S. presidents who have attempted to overthrow the Cuban government. During the Cold War, the CIA launched the disastrous 1961 Bay of Pigs invasion. The agency also tried to assassinate Fidel Castro at least 8 times. The U.S. also conducted a covert campaign of bombing Cuban sugar mills and burning cane fields, among other acts of sabotage. In the wake of the Bay of Pigs debacle, the Pentagon prepared top-secret plans to pave the way for an attack on the island. In the spring of 1962, the Joint Chiefs of Staff circulated a top-secret memorandum titled Justification for U.S. Military Intervention in Cuba. It described numerous false flag operations that could be employed to justify a U.S. invasion, including a plot to sink a boatload of Cuban refugees, real or simulated, and even staging a modern Remember the Maine incident by blowing up a U.S. ship in Cuban waters and blaming the incident on Cuba. Other U.S. plans for covert action on the island specifically prioritized attacking Cuba's electrical grid. Asked if the Joint Chiefs of Staff were involved in analogous actions today, spokesperson Major Annabelle Monroe referred the intercept to Southern Command, who then referred the intercept to the State Department, which did not respond to a request for comment. Humeyer said that the War Department was currently focused on partner-led deterrence operations, but would not rule out unilateral U.S. strikes across Latin America. He said that in addition to Ecuador, the U.S. had forged agreements with 17 partner nations in the Western Hemisphere as part of the so-called America's Counter-Cartel Coalition. This international body, formally announced by Trump at his Shield of the Americas summit earlier this month, will focus on bilateral and multilateral operations against cartels and terrorist organizations. Humeyer was asked if any of the 18 nations were concerned about issues of sovereignty regarding the U.S. potentially conducting attacks in their countries. Members of the coalition specifically signed a joint security declaration mentioning that they want this support, and most of them are looking for this, he replied. But the bare-bones statement they signed is astonishingly vague and offers little substance on the subject. Humeyer indicated that the U.S. had leveraged gunboat diplomacy in Venezuela to strong-arm Cuba and assist in gaining compliance from Nicaragua, as well as shifting the Caribbean in a favorable direction towards U.S. interests. Recent official leaks about the potential U.S. indictment of President Gustavo Petro of Colombia on drug charges, the official reason for Maduro's kidnapping, and the means reportedly used to keep his successor Rodriguez in line, suggest the U.S. may employ that tactic as leverage, or an eventual pretext for military action. Petro has denied ties to drug traffickers. It sounds as if Petro is potentially on the chopping block, a former defense official who spoke on the condition of anonymity due to his current employment told The Intercept. The source said leaks about the potential indictment of Petro, coupled with the U.S. Ecuadorian attack, which has stirred up tensions along the South American nation's border, increasingly look like a coordinated campaign to foment discord, if not conflict. Asked in January about attacking Colombia, Trump responded, "It sounds good to me." The U.S. attacks on the Colombia-Ecuador border come as America has recently established a permanent FBI presence in Ecuador, joining agents from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and the Department of Homeland Security. Just before the U.S. began attacks on the Ecuador-Colombia border, Donovan traveled to Quito, Ecuador's capital, to meet with President Daniel Noboa and senior Ecuadorian defense officials. Last August, Lieutenant Colonel Philip Vaughn, the commander of an expeditionary task group overseeing Air Force special operations in the Caribbean and South America, coordinated meetings to increase interoperability between U.S. and Ecuadorian forces to counter illicit actors operating along Ecuador's northern border, with Colombia including operational planning scenarios, execution of close air support procedures, and multiple topics on joint terminal attack controller support, which relates to targeting and airstrikes. America's Western Hemisphere Blitz is part of what Trump and others have called the Monroe Doctrine, a bastardization of the 1823 Monroe Doctrine. While President James Monroe's policy sought to prevent Europe from colonizing and meddling in the Western Hemisphere, Trump has wielded his variant as a license for America to do exactly that. The National Security Strategy, released late last year, decrees that Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, a potent restoration of American power and priorities, rooted in the readjustment of our global military presence to address urgent threats in our hemisphere. Humeyer defined America's immediate security perimeter as Alaska to Greenland, in the Arctic to the Gulf of America, and the Panama Canal and surrounding countries. Trump has also threatened to annex Greenland and possibly Iceland, turn Canada into a U.S. state, and conduct military strikes in Mexico. Humeyer also detailed efforts to strong-arm Panama to cut ties with China to ensure access to the Panamanian-owned canal that he nonetheless called a U.S. national asset. Iran, Iraq, Nigeria, Somalia, Syria, and Yemen, during his second term, most of them sites of U.S. conflicts during the War on Terror. In addition to his wars in the Western Hemisphere, Trump has also launched attacks on Iran, Iraq, Nigeria, Somalia, Syria, and Yemen during his second term, most of them sites of U.S. conflicts during the War on Terror. Smith, the House Armed Services Committee ranking member, told Humeyer that Trump's war in the Americas also appeared to be morphing into a new forever conflict, with no clear goal or endpoint. Asked what level of achievement would be necessary to stop kinetic action, Humeyer responded with a wall of words about border security, terrorism, and cartels. When Smith interrupted to clarify if the boat strikes would continue unabated, Humeyer confusingly replied, "No, correct." I don't know why the author didn't circle back around to the headline. These people are calling what they're doing in Latin America Operation Total Extermination. Freestyle Skate points out the UN just held a vote to condone slavery. Guess what 3 countries voted against it? UN vote condemning enslaving Africans in the transatlantic slave trade. What makes this particularly embarrassing for the United States is that it's such a slam dunk. Like, it's so easy. Why not vote for this? Why not at least abstain? Like, why vote against it? What do you have to gain by voting against it? Over on Twitch, Mr. Sidious. I like that name, friend. That's a nice name, Mr. Sidious. That's like a 1950s Batman villain name. You'll never catch me. I'm Mr. Sidious. I love it. Greetings to you. Yeah, I wonder who will be targeted in April. I think it's all on the table at this point. It's pretty clear that we're not dealing with a force or an organization that is operating rationally anymore. That it is just lashing out as a monster or a beast would, a wounded animal would lash out. That there's an underpinning logic that exists. There are fundamental assumptions to the way the monster thinks, but it's not really doing anything to help itself. It's just doing things. It's just hitting what it thinks it needs to hit. And none of it is going to work in the long run. That in the long run, it's only going to isolate the monster even more. More and more people are seeing it for what it is. The apologetics are not really working any longer. And so it's all falling apart. And Mr. Sidious says, I'm sorry, they renamed the Department of Defense to Department of War. What else would you expect? Yeah, I mean, that's a fair enough point. I guess, like, even I still hold on to the glimmering, fading hope that someone at some point at any level of any position in the society will finally go, what are we doing here? Like, what are we actually doing here? Like, what's the strategy? What's the point? What's the goal? Why are we pursuing any of these objectives in the first place? What are we gaining? Really, what are we gaining by doing any of this? Because the only way it makes any sense is if you value money and finance above everything else. The water, the air, the land, human life, just and anything that actually makes life stable and foundational, you have to subserviate that to money. Even other abstract concepts that are also man-made, like borders, nation-states, governments, you have to subserviate that as well to the accumulation of not even assets, like not even personal assets, just a number that exists on a screen. And you can really see that in the way that Donald Trump is handling the Iran war and talking about the Iran war, that he literally waits until the markets are closed to make fairly major moves, because he wants to be able to give the market a day or two to be able to take in what it is that's happening without it having an immediate response on the market. And the very fact that every single time Donald Trump says or does anything, the markets go up and the markets go down and the markets go up and the market goes, tells you that it's just a small group of Epstein-level gambling psychopaths just shuffling just numbers around. They're not actually shuffling assets around. Like, the line goes up and what? Like, you're still poor. You still have nothing. That the people who own this place are just jerking off with the excess wealth that they've hoovered up from the society. And instead of actually letting it trickle down and having, the rising tide raise all boats and have it actually help anybody, they're just throwing their money into black holes like the metaverse, which collapsed recently, or this AI debacle, which is going to collapse, and endless godless wars, because that's what we need is a good war. That'll really clean everything up. If we got a good war, that'll get the economy up and running. That'll make some jobs for everyone. Mr. Sidious writes, in a long run, the Latin American regime changes would only drive corruption upward, rewarding politicians for pro-U.S. stances instead of developing their own country, which, as we saw in history, drives those countries into further poverty. Why would politicians in, let's say, Venezuela serve people when his predecessors profited by pro-U.S. stances? Why would he give up his opportunity, a golden goose, if you will, to pass by? And I mean, what you're really doing is inflaming opposition movements, right? You are turning your country into a very objective villain. Like in the article that we read, they kept talking about cartels. That's a resistance movement. Like, that's the word, that's the new word, that's the in vogue word that they're using, right? Because when they run their PR campaigns and when they go into the world and they're like, hey, what about, what do you guys think about freedom fighters? People are like, probably US backed, right? Oh, well, what about like, guerrilla fighters. Can we go kill guerrilla fighters? And like, well, people are fighting in the jungle, right? And they're fighting against U.S. aggression. Well, what about cartels? Oh, cartels are bad. Yeah, the cartels are bad for sure. I saw that on Breaking Bad, right? Cartels. Yeah, cartels are bad. Cartels are bad. We got to do something about these cartels. So if we go down and destroy the cartels, you're cool with that? Oh, yeah, we got to go down there and spread some liberty and freedom to get rid of these cartels that are just the fucking same thing. It's just the same goddamn thing, right? It's just a group of people who are indigenous to the nation attempting to take power and influence away from the Epstein class. And you name them however you need to name them to make Americans go, we gotta stop something like that. We gotta make sure that, they're tone, while they're like jamming their faces full of burgers. Vasand, good to see you. Dave Boss, good to see you too. Yeah, Ukraine bombed a huge oil refinery in Russia too. Yeah, way to go. Yeah, wait for it, guys. We're gonna have the 200. We're going for the $200 barrel of oil. You wait for it. The downflow effects. Oh, the downflow effects are gonna be so good, you guys. Yeah, it's gonna be so good. When the price of oil goes up, the price of every good goes up. Like, it's just, oil is connected to everything. I know that when I was a teenager, right, because a child can see that we need to get off of oil, right? When you're like a little boy and you hear about this non-renewable resource called oil that we've tied everything into, it doesn't take a genius. Certainly, I'm no genius. Doesn't take a genius to figure out, like, okay, well, if we run out of it, right? If it's a finite resource that we don't have an infinite amount of, well, what are we gonna do? Forget about the climate change side of it, right? Like, the climate change side of it is already a total fucking disaster. We're gonna hit a giant brick wall with that. There's gonna be massive famines. There's gonna be huge heat waves. It's just gonna be like an apocalypse level event. Like the wet bulb events are going to be the big ones, I think. That's going to be the real eye-opener for millions of people. You're going to have millions of people who are just like sitting on the fence or kind of rolling their eyes about it or just feeling like, well, whatever, what are you going to do? And then a wet bulb event is going to happen in like a major city center, and just thousands of people will suddenly die. And it'll just happen. And people will be like, what? I didn't realize that if you increased the heat in a closed container that the things inside of it could boil to death. But forget about that, right? Because, I mean, we all have, right? We all have, like, nobody cares about climate change anymore. Like, the general attitude amongst the public now in regards to climate change is, well, what are you going to do? We'll just deal with it. What are you going to do? We're just going to deal with it. We certainly shouldn't round up all the oil executives and put them in prison. Like, that's not something that we should definitely be doing and have done 10 years ago. No. We don't need to do that. The marketplace of ideas will solve this problem. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to Epstein Island. Yeah, Mr. Sidious writes, cartels are indeed a problem in Latin America. I'm talking Escobar kind. But when you cut them off without diminishing the demand for drugs, it's just a matter of time when new cartels arise. Instead, how about we provide support in terms of access to global economies and let them deal with it by creating such system where these cartels are too much of a risk to run? I mean, the cartels just become legitimate business then. That's really what happens. And the capitalists don't want the competition. Like, that's their resources. That's their money. That's their drug trade, right? The CIA wants to run their own drug trade, and they do run their own drug trade. They're not interested in having competitors. Like, we're talking about a country that refuses to condemn its own history of slavery. Like, they want slaves because they want those resources for themselves. And it really is that simple. Like, we're looking at Ecuador, we're looking at Nicaragua, we're looking at Colombia, and we're thinking to ourselves, oh, those resources that are there, those should be our resources. That should be ours. And we should have slaves get those resources for us. And the cartels stand in the way of that. And, like, yeah, I'm sure the cartels are full of, like, people who are not nice. Like, I've said it over and over and over and over again on this channel, and I'll continue to say it over and over and over again, right? If you create the material conditions so that the most violent and the most risk-accepting people in the society receive the most rewards, then those are the people you're going to get. Right? Those are the people you're going to get. It's like in Iran. Like, in Iran, they installed the Shah, right? They installed the Shah. The United States installed the Shah. And the response to that was that people who were willing to pick up weapons and defend their culture overthrew the Shah. And people who are willing to pick up weapons to defend a culture are, unsurprisingly, militant theocrats. Theocrats are the ones that are most willing to give their lives to defend the culture. And it's no different with these cartels. Like, if people have nothing else going on, and if you refuse to give them a door to do anything else, then they're going to pick up a gun and they're going to shoot someone to get access to something. Like, this isn't like rocket science. You just have to view people as people and not cattle, the way that our system does. Baldy with a $5 donation. Thank you for the donation, my man. A good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe, hit the bells, hit the whistles, ring the bell, hit the notification, taste the rainbow, verb the noun. Be sure to reach into your wallet, pull out that dollar bill and send it to the address below, and Jesus will bestow his glorious love upon you. I promise you that. Mr. Sidia says, well, not all capitalists. I don't understand, but since you are communist, a left authoritarian spectrum, and I'm libertarian, a right libertarian spectrum, we can both agree walling off people to protect the rich, aka oligarchs, should be answered with resistance. Yeah. Yeah. Like, these people are a cancer cell. Baldy writes, John, are you religious? If so, what religion do you practice? If not, why is religion your favorite subject to talk about? Everybody's religious. So, there's a thing that happened in our society. There's a thing that happened in our society where religion became synonymous with religious institutions, like the Catholic Church or the Protestant churches, the Anglican Church, right? And a lot of people wanted to distance themselves from these institutions because they're full of pedophiles and are lunatics or cowards, and have really no value in the society whatsoever. Like, the Catholic Church at this point is not that much different than like a giant museum or a bank. Like, it's just a big depository of all the shit they've stolen. You go to the Vatican and you're just like, yeah, here's all the fucking gold and treasure that they looted from the world for the time that they've been alive, and here it is. You can look at it. And so to be religious meant that you had to kind of like adhere to one of these institutions. And so there's this new terminology that arises, which is, well, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, right? I'm spiritual. I just do away with all of that. Like, institutionalized religion, institutions will always be corrupted. Religious institutions, because religion as an idea or as a thing is a non-rational force in the first place. So to say that you want to have an institutionalized religion is to essentially admit that you're there to manipulate people's emotions and manipulate people's existential positions or feelings, to be a storyteller, and these sorts of institutions tend to exist for their own benefit. But like, the hard truth about reality, or about humanity rather, is that we are all religious, right? Just as we have a logical side, a rational side, we also have an emotional side. The Greeks really formalized this idea. There's the eros and the logos, right? And they really believed that you couldn't just have the logos. If you were trying to debate or trying to form an argument or trying to put something forward or trying to put a policy or an idea forward or trying to create something in your society, you couldn't just focus on the logos. You also needed the eros. You also needed the emotional impact and make it make sense on that emotional level. And that's religion, baby. Like, that's the religious aspect of it. That religion is non-rational. That we tend to hyperfixate on rationalization, on the rational side of the society, which makes sense because many of our religious institutions have lost. They're not capable. They're not capable of being rational. Which you have people like Augustine, way back in like the 10th century, writing like, yeah, if you do that, then people will reject you ultimately. And my kind of seminal statement on all of it is if you don't acknowledge that you have this religious sort of non-rational emotional side to yourself, and if you don't make something sacred, right? If you don't make something sacred in your life and focus on that, and it doesn't matter what it is, but as long as you do it with that kind of purpose, the intention of saying, this is sacred. This is a sacred thing that I look at and I focus on it. If you don't do that, then you'll just do it passively, and you'll do it to something mundane. And the most common thing that it gets done to today is money. Money is the god of the modern world. And it's because you have a whole bunch of people who sort of purged out the idea that, like, oh, I'm not religious. Religion, oh, that's pedophiles and all this kind of, no. Clear, rational, facts don't care about your feelings, like, all that kind of stuff. And we find pretty frequently that the people who are screaming at the top of their lungs, facts don't care about your feelings, are operating from their feelings pretty much 100% of the time. And so what has happened is the mundane has become sacred passively, and that's money. People worship money. They venerate money. Money has become the god of our society. And it hasn't happened through a big standing up statement of saying money is God and money. Like, there's the priests aren't, bowing, and they don't have the funny silly hats or all this kind of stuff. I mean, they wear shoulder pads with nooses around their necks. Their outfit is just as silly as the Pope's. It's just, we've normalized it, right? So when you look at a guy in a business suit, you don't think, what a loser this guy is, right? When you see a Pope walk in the modern world, you're like, this guy looks like a silly idiot, right? When you see the King of England wearing his regalia, you're kind of like, that is just ostentatious child garbage, right? They look like an idiot. But if a guy comes in wearing big giant shoulder pads, right, with a jacket, obviously cut to try to make him not look like a fat ass, wearing, this is my favorite part of the getup that they wear, wearing a literal noose. Like, it's a power tie. This is bold red noose. Like, literally, like a noose around their neck they wear. And we're all just like, that's what a fashionable, what a powerful looking. They look like idiots, all of them. Like, you look like a complete and total fucking clown. And for some reason, people are like, I love a man in uniform. It's like, well, if you fucking say so, bro. Like, we're just hijacking these non-rational aspects of ourselves in order to try to convince ourselves that we're above some kind of station or some kind of, to sort of fake ourselves into believing that we have more importance or meaning than we actually do. Anyway, why is religion my favorite subject to talk about? Because nobody talks about it. Right? When they do talk about it, it's full of idiots. Like true idiots, like truly, like, and to be fair, like, I used to be one of those idiots, right? That the Bible is a literal text full of like, it's got magic in it, and the magic is literally true. Like, Jesus was a wizard that was walking around, and at any moment he's coming back, and it's like, what an annoying thing to have in our society. People walking around actually believing that. And having it be almost completely unchallenged, and that the people who are challenging those people, their challenge to it is, it's a irrationality, like it's not rational. Which, yes, that's true, but they throw the baby out with the bathwater and pretend as though, well, if everybody just started acting rationally, and guess what? You won't. Most of the decisions you make in your life, you post-rationalize. People don't rationalize on the way into a decision and the way through a decision. People post-rationalize. People follow their instincts and follow their gut and follow what it is they think is the correct decision, based on where they're kind of perceiving themselves in the future as they go in, and then they post-rationalize it. They put the pieces together afterwards. Hindsight is 20/20, right? And really, most people are just going on vibes and feels, right? That this just feels correct. And there are a lot of very powerful forces that are involved in that process. Things that are not rational. That and things that are not rational that you can't dismiss. That's the big thing. That's the big problem I have, right? Like, you just can't dismiss the love a father has for his son. Like, you can't dismiss the love a mother has for their children. Like, you can't dismiss the love a husband has for his wife, or the love that exists within family. Like, you can't simply just shrug and dismiss that exists, and we can't make sense of that. Like, it just doesn't make sense. You can try to rationalize it, but you can put a rationalized language on it, but at the end of the day, it just is what it is, right? That there's these intrinsic emotional connections and feelings that exist that we never really discuss and we never really talk about. And the number one reason why it's the thing I like to talk about the most is because it's so obviously the most important thing to be talking about. Like, what are we doing here? What is this place? Who are we? Why are we here? What is existence? What is reality? Why are we here in the first place? Do you really genuinely believe that we are here to just wake up, go to a place we hate, to work for people we've never met, to make money, something we fucking invented, to destroy the planet, to go back home to the place we never live in, and then just die? Like, is that really what you think life is supposed to be? Like, is that what life is supposed to be about? Do we not have the capacity to even attempt to imagine a life that makes more sense than the life we have right now? And that, to me, is the biggest reason why we should be having these kinds of discussions, and we should be having these larger discussions about the nature of our reality and what we're doing in it, is so that we can imagine a better world. Because if you can't imagine the world you want to see, then you can't actually get there. Right? Like, the imagination comes first. The imagination comes first. Baldy with a $20 donation. My goodness, man. And then also somebody else, the True Democratic North with a $1.49 donation. Thank you, friend. I appreciate that so much. And I am going to go back on the rest of these comments. I'm not going to ignore them, guys. But, I mean, follow the money. Give me the Skrilla. Baldy writes, I'm seeing more and more people become religious in my generation, more towards Christianity and Islam. I mean, those are the big ones. They've got the institutional power. Like, one of the big things that we're going to find out over these next decades is that institutional power, like, this is what we need to be doing, is building institutions. The last 50 years has been an attempt to destroy institutional power in order to seize that power for yourself. Like, that's fundamentally the backbone of, like, the Reagan era, is this idea that the government is the problem, so we need to destroy the institution of the government. We need to destroy any institution that the government has funded, so destroy the Department of Education, for example, so that we can be the ones who deliver that service, to just act as gatekeepers, right? So that we get the money, so that we get the power, so that we get the influence. And these people are the Epstein class, right? They're interested in raping your children. That's the reason they want to take over the Department of Education, is so that they can normalize raping your children. Like, that's really what it's all about. They want to stop teaching slavery. They want to stop teaching civil rights. They want to stop teaching any of this kind of stuff. And they want to normalize pedophilia and the idea that it's okay for rich people to rape your children. Like, that's what they're doing. And it's not even close to hyperbolic to say that anymore. Like, it's right in front of your face. It's what they are doing. And we're just kind of going along with it. Because, well, they got the money, right? And money is God, and God said that they're okay. John, in your opinion, why is my generation, Gen Z, have a big interest in religion? Also, love you too, Baldy. That's kind of you to say. Look, I think that the reason why Gen Z are having an upswell in religion is because we are religious. And that you can't that so much of the anti-religious impulse has been a response, right? Like in Marxian terms, right? Like everything is a response to everything else, and a pendulum swings. That's like Hegelian dialectics right there, that everything is a response to something else, and that is the process that we experience history. And so, like, the new atheist movement is a good example of, like, a group of people who are just, like, looking at these evangelical Christians being like, fuck you guys. Like, fuck you guys. And very clearly, that has taken hold in the society. And incidentally, by the way, yeah, fuck these guys, right? Like, fuck these guys. And that my critique of the new atheists is that they still ceded the authority of the religion and of the text to these obvious frauds, right? Like, these people are flagrant morons, and we're still treating them like they're an authority. They're not, right? They have no authority. And so these texts and these ideas and these thoughts and these philosophies and these things that they have ceded, that they've seized for themselves and claim authority of, I think that Gen Z is looking at and wresting it away. And that you have a bunch of people who are like, oh yeah, like this wizard is real shit is obviously crazy, but have you actually read this book? Like, have you actually read this thing? Oh, interesting, right? And, oh, this is actually kind of in line with things that I inherently believe inside of myself. Because that's where religion comes from. It comes out of people, right? It doesn't, it's not a thing that is imposed upon you, right? There are institutions that do that, but it actually operates in the other way. And that it's typically when the religion becomes imposed upon you that it begins to die. That the longest lasting religions are the ones that understand that it actually goes the other way. That it comes out of us, and that if there is like a dogmatic institution that cannot respond to what comes out of the people, then it's the dogmatic institution is the one that dies in the long run. And that's really what we're experiencing with evangelical Christianity here. And I mean, I think that this attack on Iran is essentially the death of Christianity in America. Like, at least the death of this evangelical version of it. Like, these guys are obviously Nazis. Like, they're so obviously, like, they're not Christians. Like, to pretend as though they're Christians at this point is just illiteracy. It's just stupidity at the highest possible level. They don't care about their Christ. They don't give a shit about the Bible. They don't care about their religion. The fact that they call themselves Christian is just like a community rallying cry at this point. Yeah, I'm a holds up their hand. It's like scrawled on their hand, Christian. Like they would say whatever you think in order to get you to go along with whatever it is they're doing, because they're Zionists at the end of the day, which is just Nazism. And so to circle it back around and to land on the point, the reason why Gen Z are interested in religion is because we are religion. Like, we can't get away from it. And we're in this really unique and interesting moment. Gen Z is in this really unique and interesting moment where they're born into a society where the total sum of human knowledge is on your fucking phone. In your hand, you have the Library of Alexandria. Like, you've got the total sum of all human knowledge. Anything that has ever been written down at all is on your phone. It's in your pocket. It's just whether or not you want to interact with it or not. Like, that's it. It's just whether or not you want to actually be like, oh, hey, let's read this. Let's read this thing. And because we have these impulses and these desires to try to understand what's going on in the world through a non-rational lens, religious texts and religious exploration circles back around. And it's going to accelerate with the death of evangelical Christianity. Because the evangelical version of religion just can't survive. It's too stupid. Like, it's just too stupid. Like, you have to be a little kid. It's turning the Bible into a Marvel movie, really, and pretending as though Jesus Christ was a fucking wizard. As opposed to, like, understanding that, like, yeah, when magic happens, it's symbolism, guys. Like, when there's a wizard thing that happens, it's clearly the writer being like, see how I'm connecting this to, like, Dionysus, and the story of, like, death and resurrection is an idea that the message continues and persists through time, so that you can kill the man, but you can't kill the message, right? And that even in the darkest hour, the message will return, right? It'll resurrect itself, right? It's not that a literal man is literally going to descend from the heavens and be like, Jesus Christ is coming back. It'll be like, no, like, the idea of what Christ represented is coming back, which is very simply, hey, you and I are one. Like, we're two red blood cells that exist in the body, and what's good for you is good for me, and that if you're suffering, I'm suffering, right? And it's something that the Epstein class needs to try to stamp out, because if everybody started acting as though, like, a homeless person was actually, like, an affront to them personally, if people started to view one another as actually, like, extensions of one another, if you started to have basic empathy for one another, that'd be a real problem for the Epstein class. Like, the Epstein class really requires hyper-individualism and selfishness. They really require you to look at your fellow man with, if not disdain, certainly apathy. Certainly just like, well, whatever happens to them, that's what's happening to them, right? And that fundamentally is, like, the backbone of what the religious impulse is. It's this impulse to collectivize ourselves and to say, I exist beyond my individual husk. There's something larger than myself, and that we are all part of that larger thing, and that if someone else is suffering within the man-made structures that we've created in order to stabilize our existence or make sense of it to the degree that we can, if someone is suffering within it, then that's a problem. And that's a problem for me personally. I have a problem with that, because I am not just me, I am also them. They are the me that is there. Like, they are the me that is them, and I am the me that is me. And I know that doesn't really make sense, but religion is non-rational. Like, that's the whole point. Because we're we experience the world non-rationally first. And we post-rationalize. So we rationalize second. Logic happens after. And very rare is the moment in your life where you rationalize first. That's very rare. And extremely rare is the person who is rationalizing as they go through life. Like, it takes an enormous amount of institutional energy to rationalize first. Like, it takes an enormous amount of energy to do it. And it doesn't usually last. It doesn't usually last. Okay. Omnicidal tendencies. Look how that turned out at 10 plus GDP per year after a creditor nation highly westernized and modernized. Now it's a theocratic mess. I assume you're talking about Iran. Like, yeah. Like, that's what happens when you overthrow a country's leadership. Like, again, I'll say it over and over again, right? If you overthrow a country's leadership, the resistance that arises in response to that overthrow is going to be the people who are most willing to pick up weapons, shoot guns, and who are most determined to defend their culture. And in the case of Iran, that's Islamic militant theocrats. Like, that's just very clearly the case. It's why when you overthrow, like, a white nation, the people who are most ready to pick up weapons and defend the culture are usually fascists, right? Nationalists. People who are the NRA guys, right? The red hat guys. Like, those are the guys that are going to pick up guns, go January 6th the place, right? Like, and if you don't want to see it, then don't overthrow places. Like, really pretty straightforward thinking. And yeah, of course it's a mess. You made a mess. Like, that's the thing that's so awkward and odd about the Iran conversation, is that people pretend as though the Shah didn't exist, as if the United States and the West wasn't involved in that. It's a very, very odd position to hold, I think. Content writes, is emotions religious? Am I religious? I'm an emotional person. How am I religious? I don't understand how my emotions are religious. So the concept of, like, our emotions and our what has happened is we have entered a, like, Freudian psychological moment. Like, we have gone away from explaining our emotions through religious and through symbolism and through stories, and now the popular way to discuss our religion, our emotions rather, is through psychology. Freudian and Jung and all that kind of stuff, right? But there isn't really a separation there. It's just another method by which we attempt to describe our human experiences. And, like, yes, everyone is religious. Like, I know that offends some people. I know that there are people out in the world who are just like, I'm not religious. I'm not religious. I've done everything I can to not be religious. Like, okay, sure. Off you go then, and that's fine. But really, like, when you actually connect in to what I'm saying, like, all it is an acknowledgement that there is a non-rational aspect in your life. You exist as a non-rational being. Like, you are primarily reacting to things that are external to you, primarily, and the way that you're responding to those things are not primarily rational. You're primarily a non-rational creature. And that's religion, baby. Like, that's how religion operates, and that's what religion seeks to kind of make sense of and explain, and to try to tell stories of, and to create art. And if all of this sounds, like, very wobbly and very wooey and very, like, yeah. Like, that's the most annoying part about the conversation, as far as I'm concerned, is that people want the religious or the non-rational side of themselves to make the same kind of logical, rational sense as the rational, logical side of it. And it can't. That's not what it is. It is abstraction. It is odd. It is strange. It is wobbly and weird. It is inexplicable and unexplainable. Like, we barely have the language to even acknowledge it exists. And it exists within imagination, and it's strange, and it's unusual, and it's difficult to get a hold of. Because our existence is difficult to get a hold of. And so I just say, get rid of this idea that you will ever make sense of it, because you won't, because it can't be made sense of, because it's the opposite of sense. It's intentionally nonsensical. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? If it made sense, it would just be logic. Like, if it made sense, it would just be logic. And so much of your existence doesn't make any goddamn sense at all. It's non-rational. Like, and I don't say irrational. It's non-rational. It exists in a space that is just, it is what it is. And people know, like, people understand, like, that there are non-rational things that, like, if someone kills your dad, you're going to go on a vengeance quest. And everybody knows that. And everybody understands that. And you can, like, create a language to try to rationalize it. But it's not rational. And everybody knows that you can't stand in the front of that. Everybody knows. And everybody knows that if justice, what's that even? Justice, what are you even talking about? But everybody knows that if justice doesn't happen, if the sun doesn't reach a conclusion to see the man who killed his dad punished in a way that satisfies him, then he's going to pursue it himself. And everybody knows that. Like, there's no surprise there. So if he goes through the court system and he stands in front of a judge and the judge gives him a little slap on the wrist because he's a first-time offender and he's a good little boy, and then the son pulls out a gun and guns down the guy that killed his dad, anybody with a heart and a soul inside of them will be like, well, doesn't make any goddamn sense. The son ruins his life. He goes to jail. But everybody is like... And there are, like, examples of this all over the place in our lives. Just, like, this pursuit, this godless, relentless pursuit of money is itself completely non-rational. It doesn't make any goddamn sense at all. It makes no sense, even a tiny little bit. There is no rational logic behind it. There is no sound, reasoned principle that shows you why it should matter to a person who has $10 billion that another billion is going to really matter. Why should it matter to a man who has $100 billion that he gets another $100 billion? Why does that matter to him even a little? What bleak, dark, black hole is he attempting to fill with this idea that I'm worth $200 billion and that guy's only worth $150 billion, so I'm a better person than that like, please do not stand in front of me and say that non-rational forces like don't exist. like that's the best part about all of this, is that if we stripped away all of the wealth from these billionaires, if we said forget about $1 million, right? Like, I advocate going down to $1 million because I just don't think like the Kevin O'Learys of the world should have more than that. But if you just stripped it away and gave them $1 billion, right? Like, their quality of life would not move a single iota. Like, they would live exactly the same lifestyle that they're currently living. Because there is a material limit to what a person can have around them before it just doesn't fucking matter. Like, you can only buy so many mansions. You can only buy so many cars. You can only buy so many things before you're out of space around you. And you're only a person, so you can only go so far, and you can only go so fast, right? So if you stripped away all of the wealth, over $1 billion from these guys, their life would not change one iota. And every single one of them would fight tooth and nail against it. And they do. And they do. And they cry and they whine and they play the victim and they pout and they scream about how they're gonna well, if you raise my taxes, I'm just gonna leave, and they'll spend more money funding campaigns to run against the people who are gonna raise their taxes than the taxes would cost them. Like, this is not a rational thing we're looking at. This is completely non-rational, and it's completely tied into a religious belief that my intrinsic value can be measured through money. That the value of a person is determined on how much money they have. And there is no other measurement of a person's value, as if you could measure a person's value. As if a person's value should be measured or can be measured. As if their very existence is not evidence of their value. Like, the universe persisted for hundreds of billions of years to create you in this moment in time. and some asshole with $100 billion is trying to tell you that his opinion matters more than the force of creation that put you here. Get fucked. Get completely, totally fucked. And the biggest reason why I think it's a very important conversation to have, and I keep bringing it up and I keep talking about it, is because it's perspective shifting. And that to me is really what it's about. That it's about shifting your perspective to get a better sense of what you actually are and what life actually is, so that you can actually live in it in a way that makes any goddamn sense at all. That the perspective of hyper-individualism is the perspective of a child. That I'm the only thing that matters and everybody else is an NPC that just exists for my benefit. And through this process of this discussion and of religion, this non-rational discussion that we have, you begin to see that it's inverted. That the whole matters more than the individual. The collective obviously matters more than the individual. The institutions that those collectives that arise from those institutions, from those collectives, are what persist through time. Right? Like when Elon Musk dies, everyone will forget about him and no one will care. Like literally, he will die. 2 years later, there will be like an HBO special of like remembering Elon or whatever, and people will be like, well, he was involved in this and he was involved in that, and then that'll be the end of him. And the only thing that will persist are the institutions that were built, but because of the nature of vulture capitalism and the way that it works, is that all those institutions will just be completely dismantled, and aspects of them will just be hoovered into or moved into the military, right? Like SpaceX will just become part of the United States military. And, you know, maybe you'll have like Tesla will be on some documents or something. But nobody will care about Elon Musk. Nobody will talk about him. He won't be important. And in fact, like the people who think he's important will be seen as kind of embarrassing. Because this, like, we all intrinsically understand and know, like, this hyper-veneration of individuals is kind of cringy and embarrassing. Like, in a way, the figure of Jesus sort of lampoons that idea. Like Jesus is a wizard. Like, he's a space wizard, and we've venerated him to the highest level, so we all know his name, and we all know his shit. It's like... And anytime anybody stands up and says something like we're bigger than bigger than Jesus, like the Beatles did, yeah, guess what? People are already forgetting the Beatles. In one more generation, the Beatles will be gone. People will still be putting those little crosses on. So Jesus exists to like make fun of us in a way. Anyway, I'm kind of all over the place, guys, because I haven't slept in like 2 days. And so to circle it back around, Compton, to what has happened is that we have created a new language set to deal with the same things that religion was dealing with. And that the language of emotions arises from Freudian psychology and Jungian psychology, as well as modern neuroscience. And before we had that, before the Enlightenment, we had religion. And not every religion attempted to tackle the issue in the same way. Like Christianity is, I don't want to say unique, but like Christianity became heavily politicized very early. If you take a look at like Eastern religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, even like Zoroastrianism, they make a stronger attempt to connect emotions to our lived experiences, in a way that I think would be more recognizable to us. Like if you look behind me, I've got the chakra poster right behind me. It comes straight out of Hinduism and straight out of Buddhism, right? And the chakra system is, in my view, like a really, really, really great system to take a look at. Because it connects your emotions to your body. It allows you, it gives you a map to explore your internal self. Like that's something that I really like about it. And it doesn't really matter, like it doesn't need to be literally true. Again, it's non-rational, right? It doesn't need to be literally true. It's just a map. It's just giving you a guideline to sort of begin the process of investigation. And what matters more is the act of investigating. Like, that's what matters most, is the act of investigation. Long Defiant writes, eliminating money is a central goal of transformative movements. Yeah, like, money's a problem, man. Like, I'm of the opinion that money should exist, like, completely in the background. That money is useful as, like, a measurement tool alone. Like in the way that a ruler is useful when you're, like, building a structure. But you would never say, we can't build that structure because we don't have enough inches. Right? Like, the structure is what matters. And that the ruler is just a tool. And it exists in the hand of the craftsman. And it exists in his tool belt. But you would never withhold rulers from someone in order to prevent the building from going up. Based on some weird ideology. That money would be like a measurement tool to be like, okay, like we see that we're doing a lot of trade in this regard, and that's created a deficit over here, and we see how much that deficit is because we've measured it through this money system. And maybe we want to adjust that, or if you do an analysis of your society and you see that there's a whole lot of money kind of piling up over here, you're like, what the hell is going on here? What system is happening here? In order to have that wealth pile up in that corner, maybe we should investigate that. And there's like, follow the money, right? The paper trail, the money trail. It's how you do like audits and investigate things and be like, what the fuck happened here? So money is both useful as a measurement tool, but also as like a record, like a historical record of like, okay, well, what the fuck happened? But it should exist, like, it should exist in like the back rooms of a government building. And it should be like, a small handful of like money nerds who are just like, okay, we're just making sure that everything is kind of in balance and in alignment, and that nothing's going off the fucking rails. That's all. And that's where I think money should go, and where it should exist. And literally nobody should interact with money, just in the same way that nobody interacts with constitutional law. Right? Like, you don't interact with constitutional law on a day-to-day basis, right? You know that the Constitution exists. You have this concept of your rights, and you have this concept of your idea, and like, but you don't actually interact with it ever. But it exists in a building over there, and we vote for a guy, and he goes, and he's the guy that deals with it, right? So, and we understand that it's valuable that exists. So there it is. Money should be exactly the same thing. Like, how do we make sure that everybody gets access to goods? Oh, well, there's this measurement tool, money. It exists over there. You can go research it if you want. It's a job. You can go have it if you want. But the idea that everybody should have their own individual bank account, and that there should be this complex taxation system and this arduous... It's so very clearly a control mechanism from the capitalist class. It's so obviously a control mechanism to make sure that they just keep people in this sort of subsistence place. We need more chauffeurs for Epstein Island. Let's double the amount of money that the chauffeurs make, and that'll incentivize people to go... Oh, we want people to stop doing this. Well, let's raise the tax on that and make sure that people will be disincentivized to do that, right? Like it's so obviously just a lever control system to be like, we don't want people to have access to this good, just jack the price. Like, that's all it is. And I just think it's kind of this fuck these, and it's like people like Elon Musk that make those decisions, and I'm like, fuck off. Like, these decisions should be made collectively. We should be able to make these decisions as a collective, as a people. But we've been so hyper alienated from one another, and we've been so hyper individualized that even the concept that we could sit down and have a conversation to solve our problems, even that seems laughable to us because we're so hyper alienated from one another. We can't possibly just discuss and come to agreements. Okay. Long Defiance is God-shaped hole fallacy. Maybe clarify that, because I don't want to assume something and then go off on a tangent. I can tell I'm in a tangent place, guys. Like, I'm basically asleep right now. Yeah, omnicidal tendencies. He with the best hat has the power. Dude, that's actually so super true. There was a period in papal history where there was like 3 popes. There was like an Italian pope, there was a French pope, and there was like a Austrian pope. I forget where they were from, but let's just say but there were 3 popes, and all the popes were vying for who was the popiest pope, who was the one true pope. And it used to be that the pope would show up and he would just wear the yarmulke. He'd have just like the little thing, and that was just the pope, right? Pope. And then one day, one of the popes shows up, and his pope hat is just like a little bit bigger, just like a little bit raised. And so another pope shows up somewhere, and his hat's like a little bit bigger. And then another pope shows up, and his hat's a little bit bigger. And this just keeps happening over the course of like years until finally it's like a pope shows up and he's got this hat with like the big cross on it, and it's like, Pope, I am the most Jesus-y Pope. And then the whole thing resolved itself, and everybody was like, you're the Pope. And he just kind of has the hat now. And it's ridiculous. Like, you look like an idiot. If anybody is like, wow, what a dignified person that Pope looks like in that hat, shut the fuck right up. You look like a moron wearing that cone hat with the big fucking cross on it. Like, every single time these Pope hats show up, and they're all like jewel encrusted, and the gold, but the very concept of the Pope hat itself is fucking stupid. You look like an idiot, right? And not this Pope, but the last Pope, I think he knew it. He only wore the hat once, which is when he was ordained. It was just like, they literally were like, and now the humiliation ritual, we put the silly hat on you. Wear the silly hat for Jesus. And he wore the silly hat, and then he was like, I am here to do the work of Jesus. And then he never wore the goddamn thing again, because it's ridiculous. Like, do away with the dumb hat. If you can't do away with the dumb hat, how can you do away with other stupid shit that you're doing? Like, nobody can look at you and be like, bro, stop that. Like, nobody. But it's our tradition. It's our history. And you have to stand up for the history of the Catholic Church. Because if you don't stand up for the history and the traditions of the Catholic Church, then godlessness will take over. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some little boys to see to. Like, maybe some traditions should end. Maybe. Free Southgate, I prefer bow ties myself. Yep. Something you can spin so you can take flight. Yep. Content, what if you rock a hoodie? No hat, just hoodie energy. There you go. Now we're talking. Right? If Donald Trump showed up to a press conference wearing a hoodie, I'd be like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck, shit just got real. Omnicidal tendency says wearing a noose. You mean a cravat, Jean? Those are classy if you get the puffy ones. Yeah. Even sillier. The only thing you should ever put around your neck is a scarf. And that's it. A scarf is the only thing that makes any sense. Because you're putting that on you to keep your neck warm. And to keep everything, keep the heat in, and keep all of that kind of stuff. Anything else you're putting around your neck to make a fashion statement is basically just you saying, God, I hope this catches on something, and today's the last day. Like, I hope somebody strangles me today. And it doesn't matter if you're going like, oh yeah, I feel so powerful and my noose around my neck and I hope somebody strangles me to death and I get out of here as fast as possible. Or you're like, this one's so nice. Look how fluffy it is. I hope it catches on a tree branch and I hang myself and so I don't have to be here anymore. Like, that's what I think anytime I see anybody wearing anything wrapped around their neck that's just ornamental. Like, oh, you hope that catches on something so you die. Like, that's what this is. This is your internal desire to be dead, right? The call to the void, the universe staring into your soul, being like, one day you will be with me again. And you go, let's try to make that happen as fast as possible. Let's up the odds. Let's make it so that, like, maybe today I'm late for my bus and I've got to run, and so the tie will like fly into the thing, and then maybe a car will be coming past here and the tie will come up and it'll catch it and I'll go, oh, and that'll be the end of my life. Maybe today is the day where I no longer have to experience existing. Oh, that'll be a good day. I'm really looking forward to that. Boy, I got some bills to pay. That's what I think of fucking ties. Cravats. Anything. Anything you wrap around your neck. It's just you saying to the universe, please let today be the day. Freestyle skate. The Bible is one of the most misread books, I believe. The book shows that humanity progresses, and that progression is needed for humanity to survive. Imagine if the rulers of the time crucified all, yeah. Like, that's really what like, people who look at the Bible and are like, it's upholding slavery. I'm like, no, it existed during a time that slavery existed. And it's like, it needed to exist within that time, and it didn't have the ability to banish it. The people who stood up and tried to banish slavery were crucified for it. And so the Bible is like, well, there be slavery here. And of course, some like religious fundamentalist kooky nuts are like, this means that we can have slaves. Sure, buddy. Like, yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what Christ was talking about when he said, love your neighbor as yourself. I'm sure that's exactly correct. I mean, big shocker, guys. The people who think that magic is real don't really have a strong interpretation of the Bible. Who knew? Like, literally, there are people walking around being like, Harry Potter is a wizard who was here, and he exists just on the other side of that building, and you can't see him, and if he wasn't here, then we would all fall prey to the Dark Lord Voldemort. And everybody, like, actually believes that. And that's like a real thing that's really happening, that you really think that you're going to turn the corner and there's going to be like a wizard duel and you're going to be able to see it. That's what those people are like. And so when those people give you their opinions on social issues, you really just have to say, yeah, but you fucking think Harry Potter is real. Like, you think magic is real. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, maybe try growing up a little bit. Maybe try actually, like, acknowledging that no, magic isn't real, and that when magic happens in your little book there, it's probably saying something. They're probably trying to get into abstraction to make you think about your emotions and make you think about the non-rational aspect of your life. Maybe it's symbolic. Did you ever think that when Jesus does something that other gods at the time were doing, that maybe the storytellers were trying to, like, make connections so that a person from like Cyprus would be like, oh, that's like this guy. I can get on board with this guy. Like, it's so obvious that Jesus is like this amalgamation of different gods, like Dionysus and Ra, and it makes sense that there would be this amalgamative religious icon that would arise from Rome, because Rome was basically like expanding itself across the entire Mediterranean and capturing slaves and putting people from all over the place into one spot where they're all fracas and dislocated. They don't speak the same language and nobody knows anybody, right? Nobody actually like knows who anybody is, and it's just this like, do my work for me, right? That's what was going on in Rome. And so Jesus shows up and they're like, hey, you, guy from Egypt, you know that story you have of the death and resurrection of the sun god Ra? Yeah, this guy does that too. Hey, guy from Greece, you know how you have like a wine god who died and came back to life? Yeah, we got that guy too, right? And so you have this like character that is socially based on people who existed in Rome for sure, right? There were for sure guys like Jesus walking around. There were for sure dudes who were just like, love one another. What? Oh, for sure that happened, right? Absolutely that happened. And so they grabbed hold of all of these different stories from all of these different cultures and all of these different ideas and jammed them into this social figure that existed, and basically just so that they could say, hey, maybe give a shit about one another. Hey, maybe give your money away. Like maybe this temporal space that we share for this brief flickering moment should be nice. Maybe we should have just like a nice time while we're here. Maybe the idea that you need to grind set and bootstrap and hard work and hustle and suffer and build the character to do it. Maybe that's all goddamn bullshit. Like, maybe that's all childish bullshit. Maybe, crazy thought, hear me out. I know, very weird. You don't hear people talk about this. You don't hear anybody actually say it. You don't hear anybody point it out. Maybe, while we're here, we should have a nice time. And maybe we should build institutions so that we can have a nice time. Maybe the idea that we have to earn it is stupid. Maybe we should just get it. Why build gigantic multinational grocery chains if not to feed people with? Why do you want people to have a bad time? So they can build character. Just sounds like a trauma response. Like, it just sounds like somebody who got the shit beat out of them saying, it was actually good that I got the shit beat out of me because it made me a better person. Sounds like a trauma response to me, my man. Maybe we should have a nice time. Maybe we should look at our environment and be like, man, thank God we have air and water and food, sunshine. Thank goodness we have a supportive environment that allows life to exist, and maybe we should treasure that and build institutions to protect it. And if somebody comes along and says, we should destroy all of that for the abstract notion of money, we should treat them like a psychopath and be like, you need to live in a little box by yourself, away from everybody for a little while. Maybe learn compassion and empathy and like just basic non-psychopathic ideas. Content writes, my God, Volkswagen is switching to producing arms for Israel instead of cars. Yep. Returning to their roots. Zig Heil and all that. Freestyle skate, not the first time Volkswagen or a Western automaker sided with fascism. The automobile is a fascist toy. Oh yeah, dude, tell me about it. Like, why did we make cars? I can't think of a dumber thing to do than make cars. Every individual should have a tank. And we should pave the entire planet so that you can get into your tank and drive around by burning the bones of your ancestors. We are a very clever people. We are a very, very clever people. Mr. Sidious, you've made a couple of comments here, and I can't follow because you're responding to things I've said, and you're new here, so you don't know that I just go off. And today is especially bad. I'll admit it. Today's especially bad. I'm still kind of reeling from Operation Total Extermination. I can't believe somebody actually stood up and was like, we should do a military operation and call it, like, Operation Epic Fury was bad enough, and like Operation Spearhead Thunder, and Operation Prosperity Guardian, and like these like lame, idiotic child names that come from 4chan channels, right? Like, that was one thing, but now they're just straight up like Operation Murder All the Babies, Operation Total Genocide, Operation Lucifer's Spawn. Like, they're literally just like Operation Get All the like crucify everybody, like Operation Round 'em Up. Like, they're gonna make movies where a guy like Homelander is the hero, where we're all gonna like watch it. And it's not going to be, like, dark and gritty, right? Like, that's the thing, is that you would think that if they did a movie where it's like, oh, it's like Superman, but he's bad, they'd be like, oh, it's all dark and gritty, and, like, we're aware of how bad it is. No, it's going to be like, ba-da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da, and Homelander will show up and, like, murder a bunch of Iranians with his laser eyes, and all the white people will be like, thanks, Homelander, and Homelander will be like, you're welcome, citizen. It'll be like Starship Troopers, but without the sense of irony, right? It'll just be fascist propaganda, and people and tons of people. Dude, I completely look to the Warhammer movies for this. I completely look. They're going to make Warhammer movies or a Warhammer TV show. I think Henry Cavill is involved in it. They're going to make this, and it's going to be fascist propaganda. Like, and it's going to straight up be completely distilled of all its satire, of all of its parody, of everything that makes it a parody. And it's just gonna be, Space Marines are awesome, and we love killing space bugs and space witches and magic, and we're here to defend the Emperor for the glory of the Empire. And there's gonna be like a whole generation of nerds, a whole generation of like total loser kids who are just gonna be like, for the glory of the Empire, and they're gonna mean it. They're going to be the kids that are going to paratroop into Iran, right? Those are going to be the kids that they're like, oh, we got a bunch of kids here who unironically think that the Emperor is good. Great, put them on a plane, drop them in Iran. Dude, I hope that happens. I hope that they send like a paratrooper group into that Karg Island. They keep talking about doing it. They've mobilized like the 82nd Airborne. They want to send like 3,000 troops onto Karg Island, and I'm just like, you are sending those guys there to die. Like, they are going to die there. Because, like, So you're going to send a bunch of paratroopers in the middle of a desert. Cool. Where do they get their water from? How do they get water? Oh, they'll take over a water salination plant, and Iran will hit it with a hypersonic missile. Where are they going to get their water from? We'll airdrop water in. So it's going to be like Fortnite? Like, you're just going to have, like, a bunch of, like, fucking Marines running around being like, we got to find the water pack. Like, you have any idea how fast these guys are going to fold? Like, humans don't last long without water, my man. Like, where are they going to get their water from? I hope they do it, dude, because it's going to immediately create a hostage crisis. And, like, they have to know. Like, they have to know that that's what's going to happen, right? That if they drop a bunch of Marines on that island becomes a prison, right? Like, that island essentially is just where those 3,000 Marines live now, and they can't leave. You can't get a boat there. You can't rescue them. And Donald Trump will be like, this is a hostage crisis, and we need to negotiate a return of the hostages. And it'll just, like, completely resemble exactly the same conversation that Netanyahu had with Hamas, right? That it's all about the hostages, and we need to return the hostages, and we gotta get the hostages. And everybody will forget that, like, didn't you just drop those assholes off there with no way of recovering them? Like, didn't you create this hostage crisis on purpose? Like, isn't this obviously like a stupid ploy to try to get international energy to help you with this debacle you've created in Iran? It's like, let's make no mistake. Iran is winning this thing, and Iran is, like, moving into the future. Like, if the goal was to overthrow the Islamic Revolutionary Guard and, like, the revolutionary Islamic government, epic fail. All you have done is entrench them even deeper. And now they have, like, a hero narrative, right? Now they're like, we defeated the great Satan. Like, we are the tip of the spear. Like, they tried to get us and they failed. USA, IRAN. Like, and the Americans look like goofballs doing it. Like, it's just totally unnecessary. That's the best part, man. It's just completely unnecessary. Just didn't need to happen at all. It was just something they decided to do. Freestyle Skate says, as the material conditions continue to deteriorate, people are looking for groups as support. Yeah, that's the other side of it. Right? That's the big reason why fundamentalist Christianity persists. Friendly FFS over on Twitch says, I love Fortnite. Hey, man. We all have flaws. No, that's mean. You know what I don't like about Fortnite? And I'm glad that they did. They put in a no build mode into Fortnite. The build mode was just like, shut up. You'd be playing Fortnite and then somebody would build like a tower out of nowhere. And you'd just be like, what the fuck? Now all of a sudden you're in this like tower that they're building in front of you. And you're like, you're trying to shoot and they're just like, just like, get out of here. Get out of here. We don't need to see any of that. Lurking Snow Leopard says, sounds a bit like Judge Dredd. Yeah, I mean, that's what they mean when they say they want small government, right? They literally want, like, an ICE agent walking around and be like, you have been judged. That's what they want. Like, they don't want, like, accountability. They don't want, like, due process. They don't want any of that. They literally just want, like, send a judge in to block 483912 and let's get these guys. Elaney, good to see you. I hate socialism because a billionaire pedophile told me to. Yeah, checkmate, commie. You got me, man. How can we say anything that's against it? Long Defiant writes, I believe the left's marginalization, mainly by liberals, has driven Gen Z to the far right. Yeah, I mean, there's been a big effort. Like, we've talked about that on this channel. There's been a big effort by the CIA and 4chan and these things to the far right pipeline, right? Like the get into video games, get into the manosphere, funnel people into the far right. And so they're not immune to it. But I do think that, like, if you go down the list, like, issue by issue, Gen Z is further to the left. Like, issue by issue. They're, like, more in favor of communism, more in favor of universal healthcare, more in favor of these kinds of things. And I think that's largely because they see what's going on. Like, they've never experienced prosperity, right? Like, the boomers, you could at least argue, saw prosperity, right? So there's a lot of them that are clinging on to the prosperity that they have as they vacuum it out of the society, right? And cling on to it as they go off to their deaths. But, like, Gen Z never saw any of that. All Gen Z has ever seen is just an obvious group of pedophilic psychopaths destroying the place. That's all they've ever seen. So I think that's the big inspiration for a lot of these guys. Just being like, oh, yeah, we got to do something about that. Right? And they're less likely to take seriously what a lot of these guys have to say. And when a lot of these guys stand up and say things, a lot of Gen Z kids are just like, okay, whatever. Yeah, okay, boomer, sure. There's a lot of that. Joe writes, can't change a thing if you can't change your mind. Dude, put that on like a cross stitch. I can't change a thing if you can't change your mind. Be like a flower. I love it. Isaac, the end has arrived. Oh, God, I hope so. I'm quite looking forward to it, I have to say. Long defiant, liberals have been midwives for the birth of a new fascism. Absolutely, that's true. Will parallel social and economic efforts deprive the state of taxable resources and drive it into irrelevance? Can the state tax a community garden? Yeah, to me, that's sort of the crux of why everything falls apart, is because eventually, if the state wishes to exist, which it does, it's going to have to raise taxes from the only place it can. And that's going to be the five guys that own everything, right? Like, they're not going to be able to do, like, basic functions. They're not going to be able to do their military fun game anymore because they're just not going to have a tax base. Like, they've completely eroded their tax base. And so what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to turn to the billionaire class and they have to go, okay, we're going to tax you. And then the billionaires will fund independence movements. They're already doing it. So, like, to me, that's how the whole thing falls apart. Is the moment that the state apparatus actually says, we've got to tax you, Elon, that the whole thing starts to fracas and fall apart. Jason Wakeman, anti-theism has become a religion. I mean, it didn't become a religion. Like, it's I respect the anti-theist position because fundamentally the anti-theist like, I respect people who looked at these evangelical Christians and these Catholics and said, fuck you assholes. Like, that to me is honest. Like, there's an honesty to it. I don't agree with them, clearly, but I think that they're more honest than the people who are like, Funny Hat Man said a thing. Hull writes, the most criminal administration in American history. Open insider trading like it's another weekday. Blatantly lying on deals never agreed upon. Can it just get any worse? Of course it can, Hull. The famines haven't started yet. Yeah, it's going to get way worse. Famines. Yeah, I'm really rooting for the famines. Freestyle Skate. Catholicism lost its institutions due to its complacency with the rise of fascism 100 years ago. Yeah, I mean, like, the true end of the Catholic Church, just like the monarchies of Europe, was World War I. Like, the full-scale industrialization of war And then World War II is like the death knell. Like, these institutions were like, rah, rah, let's go off to this war. And it ended up being, like, World War II is easily the most horrific event that has happened on this plane of existence. Like, you really gotta, like, you can only really compare it to like maybe like the Mongol horde, like maybe those guys, like you really gotta, it's definitely in the top 1% of just like, oh, that's the worst thing that humans have ever done, for sure. And the Catholic Church was just like, World War II, let's go. Yeah, okay, bud. Bye-bye. You're no longer a serious institution and a serious organization. And, like, I've always been a fan of the absurdist movement, Dadaism, rendering that which is sacred absurd. And I've been saying for a long time that we need to do that with today's institutions. Money is a good one to do that with, to take that which is sacred and render it absurd, to mock and make fun of it. You take a look at like Monty Python. That's what Monty Python does. It takes things like the monarchy, like the papacy, the concept of God, right? Things that are traditionally thought of as sacred and renders it absurd, so that it becomes laughable, that you can openly mock it and ridicule it. But the trouble is that you can't really render these guys absurd. Like, how do you render someone like Donald Trump absurd? He is absurd. Like literally just watch him. Like, you know how you would really make Donald Trump look as absurd as possible? You would just play a video of Donald Trump talking. And you're just like, wow, yeah. Like, he's an absurd caricature. He's the perfect person to be the president of America at this moment. Because he's a dementia-ridden, egotistical, narcissistic child rapist. He's perfect. He's perfect. He's the perfect icon of America. He represents exactly what America is into the world right now. Totally self-interested, completely delusional, incapable of even the most basic negotiation, lashing out, making stupid decisions, eating McDonald's, just being a fat, lazy, loser idiot who clearly doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself. That's America, baby. Land of the free. Free to fuck kids. Peanut Butter Beatrice writes, team sports is what religion has become in so many ways. Yeah, you're never going to get away from that. Like, to me, the big reason why I think it's so important to really dwell on this religious side of yourself and this non-rational side of yourself is because we start as children. And you can stay a child. Like, you can stay that way. I know people who are that way, who just are children, and they're 68, and they're just never not going to be children. They're just like that. And they perceive the world exclusively through their eyes and through like their tactile senses, and their ambitions or the way that they interact with the world is very much in just as a childish survivalist, like, what candy can I put in my face? What TV shows can I watch? Ha 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 ha. Well, I didn't like that. Like, just completely childish. There's just no other way to describe it, right? And it's through this process of actually investigating your non-rational self and investigating your own life and your own existence that you kind of grow up, and you kind of are just like, okay, like, you can still enjoy TV and enjoy snacks and stuff. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I'm just saying that, like, perceive the world beyond yourself, perceive existence beyond just your own experiences and your own senses. at least attempt to imagine yourself as part of a larger whole. Like, try to imagine yourself, right, as something beyond just your own experiences and your own senses. Like, try. Because that's how you build empathy, right? Empathy is literally the sensation and the emotion and the feeling that you have towards someone else. And you're not experiencing what they're experiencing, but you just imagine yourself experiencing what they're experiencing, right? And you can't do that if you're a kid. You can't do that if you're like a little child and all you know is just what you are experiencing, right? And so if you want to have empathy and compassion, then you need to build your imagination and you need to build your imaginative capacity and you need to try to struggle with your non-rational self and try to expand your empathy so that when something bad happens or when somebody is acting in a way that seems odd to you, your initial impulse isn't, they're just fucking crazy. Because they don't fit into what your childish notion is, which is just hoovering up as much as you can get for yourself. But instead you look at them and go, what? Oh, they're acting that way. I don't know why. There's got to be a good reason for it. Right? Maybe I can find out. Or if I can't find out, maybe I can still be like, hey, like, okay, what a situation we're looking at here. Like, I have come to believe that if you were to watch a movie of someone's life, anybody's life, at the end of that movie, if you didn't love that person, you would at least understand that person. You would at least have empathy for that person. That if that person was like a serial killing, psychopathic, like narcissistic, crazy person like Donald Trump, you would get to the end of that movie, the movie of their life, and be like, oh yeah, what a tragedy. Like, I really see how this happened. I really understand that. And boy, oof. And the trouble is that for some people that movie would be 5 minutes long. It would literally be like 4 scenes, right? But for some people that movie would be the duration of their entire life. That to watch a movie of somebody's life would be to experience it day by day. And so you can't. And because I believe that you come to an understanding of a person if you were to experience their life or see the world from their perspective, I just try to get to the end of that process as fast as possible and just be like, oh, okay, like what this person is doing probably makes sense given the conditions of their life. Like, I don't know everything. I can't know everything. That the universe is more creative than I am. It's just like a universal truism, right? Like the universe is not confined to the limits of my imagination. And that just because I didn't imagine it or can't imagine it didn't mean it didn't happen to that person. Like, that's an interesting thing that's really going on with this conversation. I made a couple of videos on TikTok about this article. Pentagon reveals attacks in Latin America are just the beginning with Operation Total Extermination. And the number one response I'm getting from people is disbelief. The number one response I'm getting from people is there's no way they're calling this Operation Total Extermination. There's just no way. I don't believe you. Right? Like, that's and it's completely understandable. Like, people don't want to believe it. It exists outside the limitations of their own imagination. And for them to accept that as real means that they have to expand their imagination and expand their mind, and that hurts. It's painful. You have to carve a canal in your brain in order to accept this information. Yeah, people don't want to do that. I understand that, right? Long Defiant writes, I'm not anti-theist, but dang, keep it in your pants, please. I don't really understand that comment, Long Defiant, but I'm really glad you wrote it. Isaac writes, I was raised a Seventh-day Adventist, a fundamentalist fanatic crazy cult concerned with the end times. They think Sunday keepers are going to kill for keeping Sunday. Oh, for keeping Saturday, right? Yeah, the whole Saturday, Sunday, yeah. Wow, that's bonkers. You go to church on Saturday instead of Sunday? You are godless heathens. Oh, hey, we've got somebody over on Twitch. Hero... Is that Hieronymus Snail? Hieronymus Snail? All right. Well, sophisticated adult liberals can be bound by their own ego on every level from the introduction. No matter their sophistry, all roads lead themselves. I feel trapped by themselves, their ego desires. To me, Trotsky is the ultimate iteration of the intellectual self, how the individual can co-opt and subvert any entity to the individual's ego. I remember breaking the need for my need within myself. It was a great experience, a real sense of freedom. Good for you, my man. Yeah, can you clarify about Trotsky? Because I'm not a Trotsky guy. I kind of look at Trotsky as like a spurned lover who ran away from the Soviet Union, and then Western capitalists picked him up because they were like, this guy's talking shit about Stalin. We like that. But if you actually look at Trotsky's claims, you're like, nah, not really. Like, it didn't really go down that way. Yeah, there have been high-ranking officials telling U.S. soldiers that the war in Iran is a biblical war, and boy, did that plummet morale, man. Holy cow, dude! If I was like going off to war and my leaders were like, Jesus Christ is coming back, fellas, I'd be like, oh fuck, these guys are lunatics. Can there be a beginning next? Or is this the end? This is the essence of the problem. Nah, I mean, look, life finds a way, as Jeff Goldblum says. Like, humanity might fuck itself over, but, like, I used to say it a lot on this channel. Like, the Earth created us. We tend to forget that. Like, we tend to forget that. That we tend to believe that we are this incredible, all-powerful for humanity. Whoa. Like, whoa, bear. Hold on. Let's find our perspective. Right? Let's deal with our non-rational selves, right? Like, let's humble ourselves a little bit here. Maybe put ourselves back in our place. Like, the Earth created us. We're not gonna destroy the planet. We're just gonna make it uninhabitable for us. Right? So we're just gonna fuck ourselves over. And after we're done fucking ourselves over, and after the Earth goes through a period of time where it's like, oh, these humans are fucking themselves over. Okay, just scald them off the surface of what I am. Just like it's ridding itself of a parasite. Then it'll just regrow, and life will begin anew. And how do I know? Because that's what it did in the first place. Like, it's... The Earth, life sprang from the Earth. The Earth created us, right? Like, we're not going to destroy the planet. We're just going to destroy ourselves. And so, to me, I think that that's a good thing to grab hold of and to take a look at, because it's like, it lowers the stakes a little bit more. It puts us back where we belong. Right? like they're, when we get into this apocalyptic mindset, there's this tendency for us to be like, and that will be the end of all things. And it's like, not really. It'll just be the end of us. And I don't know. Like, is this a big loss? Like, are we losing something that's important, do you think, to reality? Like, when I look at other species that the Earth creates, I think to myself, like, yeah, if those guys took over, maybe things would be a little bit, maybe things would be better off if these guys took over, right? Like, if it was these critters, Man, the bees seem to have, like, a pretty good organizational structure, and they seem pretty efficient, and all they do is produce food. That's all they do. They just shit out way more food than they could possibly eat. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad if the bees took over, right? We just have this sort of overinflated sense of self because we found fire and found oil and made big buildings, and we're like, yeah, we're very big and tall. We took this place over. Yep. Oh, if it's ruined, then that's oh no. Okay. Like, we're not that important. Like, we're not. Even humans think we're not that important. Like, there's all kinds of wonderful, amazing things that humans have done that we just don't give a fuck about. I don't care. So, like, I don't know. I think humanity just needs to get over itself. Like, we're a little stuck in this, like, hyper arrogant play. Like, we're the top of the food chain, says a person that gets eaten by the universe. Okay, champ. Baldy writes, that makes sense. My generation is the first generation that grew up with the internet. Yeah, your generation is the last generation to grow up without the internet. Yeah, without the internet. Yeah, I remember the internet coming in. I remember a time before the internet. I remember when the internet was like, literally to get a picture off the internet was like... I remember... I remember that to connect to the internet, you had to use the phone line. And if somebody called you, it kicked you off the internet. Like... Yeah, I remember, like, all that kind of stuff and, like, all the funniness and all the fussiness. Now the internet is just, like, on. And it's everywhere. And it's ubiquitous. And jury's out. Like, jury's out. Like, is it good? Like, is it good that we have this thing? It's disruptive. It's definitely disruptive. It's disrupted a lot of stuff. And disrupted a lot of stuff that people don't want to talk about and people don't want to get into because it's weird, right? Like the big one that I wade into all the time, even though, because like everybody will make fun of you for it, but like, is it such a good thing that anybody can see like tits at any time? Is that such a good thing, do you think? Is it such a good thing that like you can watch like any kind of pornography you want? Anything you want to see at any time, on a bus. You can literally be on a bus watching like a 5-guy gangbang. You can watch that. Is that good, do you think? Is that helping us, do you think? Like, it's so weird that everybody, like, oh, there's a male loneliness epidemic and people, the dating scene. Yeah, I bet the dating scene's hard right now, dude. Like, everybody's got porn on their phones. Like, like, oh, nobody's having kids anymore. Like, yeah, I bet. Nobody's having sex anymore. Yeah, I bet. Like, there's porn on your phone. Like, you can literally, in the comfort of your own house, just be like, PORN into any search engine, anywhere, and get connected to infinite pornography forever. No filter, no nothing. Nobody's stopping you. I can't imagine. Like, that's got to be fucking us up. Like, it's got to be. And, like, maybe you can have a big debate about, like, well, we'll have this disruptive period where people will adjust and there's, and social, all is norms and all, and there's this, well, and people but it's disruptive. And it's made more disruptive because literally nobody discusses it. Like, I'm not going to take a stand at this moment on the issue. But, like, we should probably talk about it. Right? There should probably be a wider conversation about, like, hey, like, it used to be that if you wanted to see, like, nudity, you had to go to a place and a person would present it. Or you'd, like, go to a building and buy a magazine or something. And so it was sort of, like, around. There's, like, smut to a degree, right? But it's kind of just, like, what's available, you know? And the internet has just, like, taken any restriction or any barrier or any censorship or anything and just, like, pulled a crank and just been like, faucets on, baby. It's just there. It's on. It's constant. And nobody mentions it. That's wild, right? Like, nobody even mentions it. Just doesn't come up. People are having less sex and there's less children happening. Yeah, well. I know why nobody talks about it, because it's embarrassing. Right? The whole issue of sex is embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. No, and nobody wants to be the guy to open it up. Nobody wants to be the person to be like, so, pornography. What do we think? Right? Like, imagine the guy that's the pro-pornography guy. Like, talk about making yourself vulnerable, right? Talk about, like, really putting yourself out there and being, like, the pro-pornography guy. Wee. Like, where's that comedian even? Like, here's how you know our comedians are losers, right? Where's the pro-pornography comedian? Like, where's this guy? His whole act should be that. It's so crazy. Borg with a $10 donation. Thank you, my man. Just as I'm saying, like, really putting yourself out there, Borg is just like, 5 guys? No. But 10 guys and a donkey? I'm in. Thank you, Borg. I feel like I should give you $10 for that comment. That's wonderful. Eggs D, and porn got more depraved over time. Yeah, it definitely, like, it, I mean, I think what it really did show is just, like, how fascists interact with sex, right? Like, a lot of, like, the bondage stuff, right? That was, like, I think that was very shocking and surprising to lots of people. 50 Shades of Grey was literally the moment when, like, Midwestern housewives all looked at one another and said, we're all fine with this, right? Like, we're all fine. Like, if you want to get tied up, we're all fine with that. No, nobody's going to judge you. Right? Like, that's what I love about these kinds of event, like I completely totally think the infatuation with true crime novels and true crime stuff links completely into pornography. I think it's a type of pornography. Like there's like I think Saw is a type of pornography. That Saw is not a story. Right? There's no story there. There's nothing happening in Saw that's illuminating anything about humanity outside of just like the blood rising because of the gore and the violence of it, and just the right, letting your humors take over. Yeah, it's so true. Nobody having kids anymore, but yeah. The Western perception of sex as a form of punishment for prisoners is of concern too. The Western perception of sex as a form of punishment for prisoners? I'm not connecting to that. Oh, yeah. 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 Yeah, people saying a prisoner... I just read the Shawshank Redemption. Every Thursday, I go to a care home, and I read a book. And the book that we just finished was The Shawshank Redemption. And that was pretty ubiquitous. Right, that was pretty ubiquitous in the Shawshank Redemption. There was this sense that like that just existed in the prison system. It's just something that happened, and there's no getting away from it. Freestyle Skate writes, I miss the optimism of the early internet. I remember thinking how big of a deal YouTube was. Being able to watch whatever for free was insane. Yeah, and now if you wanted to actually, like, if you wanted to get all of these channels, right, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, like all this kind of stuff, you're going to spend like 5 times the amount that a cable subscription was. So it's like landed in a really stupid spot. And to me, what really should happen is we should have a crown corporation here in Canada, right? You would call it like a department in America, that is essentially just like, yeah, if you want to broadcast your channel into Canada, you're going to do it through this website at canada.gov.ca/Canada channel. And you're going to broadcast it here, and we're going to do that so that we keep prices low. And if you don't want to participate, then you're not going to broadcast into Canada. Like, the psychos have taken over. Yeah, I pay $300 a month for cable and upteen streamers. Yeah, fuck that shit. Are you kidding? $300 a month? That's wild. Give me that money, Borg. Stop giving it to other streamers. Give me your money. You did give me $10, so thank you. I appreciate it. You can write it off? Dude, are you writing off your gooning? Is that what you're doing? Is that how this has happened? Oh, you're in the industry. Very good. I do think that what pornography is definitely doing, it's seeping into the mainstream. Right? It's seeping into the mainstream, and it's becoming like it used to be the case, like in the 80s, you would watch an action movie and it was like a total trope that in the action movie there would be like gratuitous nudity at some point. There would just be boobs, right? And you would just be watching an action movie and then all of a sudden there would be boobies. And you'd be like, okay, there's the boob scene. And it was just part of the idea of the masculine action movie. And that if you watched an action movie and it didn't have boobies in it, then that's a more serious movie, right? Like Predator is a more serious film than like, wow, nothing's jumping to mind. But you know what I mean, right? Like that it's like a total trope. And that trope disappeared with the rise of internet pornography. Because you would have your gratuitous nudity scene in a movie and people would be like, that's pointless, dude. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I'm here to see a good story well told and you're just distracting me with this pointless boob shot. I'm here to watch a hero go on a hero's journey. If I want to see the boobies, I got that on my phone. I think that's pretty funny. I think that's a funny thing that has changed in our culture, is that gratuitous nudity in media has become kind of like poo-poo. Like, people are a little bit like, no, get that shit out of here. We don't want to see that shit here. We've got a whole other thing for that. Right? But I do think it's going to like kind of reconnect in a way, right? Like, you're going to get like a Hollywood film with like nudity and maybe even pornography, and it's going to connect. It's going to have the connection where it's like part of the like Boogie Nights was kind of like that. Right? A film like Boogie Nights is like, it had gratuitous nudity, but it all made sense within the structure of the piece. It wasn't separate from it. And so people were like, yeah, obviously. Right? And so I think that there's going to be stuff like that. And people are going to make that kind of stuff. Because guess what? People like sex and nudity. Like, people like it. And if you tell a really interesting story that's full of sex and nudity, I bet people would watch that. And it just seems to me that the thing that's holding it back is that nobody wants to be the guy. You know? Nobody wants to be like the who's that Hustler guy? The guy who made Hustler. Anyway, nobody, Larry Flint. Nobody wants to be the Larry Flint. Like, nobody wants to be the guy who's like known for making these types of films. Boogie Nights was a goddamn good film. Yeah, star-studded cast. Like, right? Which I always kind of like. I'm always like, how did that film do that? Like, how did that, like, they made this like really excellent film. It's like essentially softcore porn, and it just sort of exists and it's there, and people are just like, oh, okay. Whereas if you made that film like today, I think it would be like kind of scandalous in a way. Like, that's another thing that I think is kind of odd, is that there's a duality in our culture right now. Like, there's a duality that exists. That films have become kind of infantile, right? There's an infantilization of film generally. Every film is made so that a child can see it, right? And there isn't really any films being made for adults, right? And I think that's kind of odd. It's created this like, it's created this separation where this aspect of human existence, sex, exists on the internet in infinite capacity. Just infinite. Right? But it's got to stay there. We can never really discuss it outside of that. And I think that's like really warped us and like really warped our perception of ourselves. And like, it wasn't that long ago. Like where are romance movies, right? It wasn't that long ago where we were making like really interesting and really good romance films where boy meets girl, they have a whole tiff or a whole situation thing, and eventually they figure it out and they get together. And you're like, okay, cool, right? And it's like, lovely, you want to go on, but we don't make those anymore. And in a way, it's like almost kind of passé. It's passé to you know what I think would be a really great romance story? Like the romance story of my generation, without a doubt, would absolutely be the story of an incel and a social justice warrior falling in love. That would be a beautiful story to tell, right? Like just a dyed-in-the-wool, blue-haired, septum-pierced, right, tatted up young lady and a straight-up red hat-wearing Texan incel manosphere boy. I think that would be a great story to tell. Like, I think that's a story that could heal America. You know, if those two crazy kids can make it work. No, that eggs. Of course, it sounds far-fetched, Eggs D. That's the point. That's the point. If the arts and film and television exist so that we can make things that seem far-fetched plausible. Because if you can't imagine it, it can't happen. And if we want America to heal, then that means that these people and these people need to figure this out. Let's write this story. It's supposed to be far-fetched. That's what makes it great, right? And if you tell the story well, it means that you love both of them independently, right? That maybe you don't. Right, it's like what I said about the movie. It's about the telling a movie about somebody's life. That like the incel fellow is just is an insecure young man who doesn't really have any guidance in the world, and so he's just falling into this like Jim Bro manosphere culture and like Call of Duty shit, getting down the alt-right pipeline. And he just collides with this social justice woman who is fighting for her own rights and what she believes in, and they just collide with one another. And if you tell the story right, you feel empathy for the young man, and you feel empathy for the young woman as individuals, and you completely understand why, when they meet, they blow up on each other, right? And that's what would be so watchable, is seeing two people who you are intrinsically rooting for, right? If you were telling the story properly, you would get the audience to be rooting for both of these people. You want to see people succeed, right? You don't, like, you want, when you go and see a film, you want to see people succeed spectacularly or fail spectacularly. That's why you're watching the thing. You don't want to watch a film about just like that, well, I guess that fucking happened. You want to watch someone succeed or fail spectacularly. And if it's a romance, then it needs to be a success eventually. But it's a failure, and it's a failure, and it's a failure, and it's a failure, and then it's a success. Yeah. Get people to root. And if you can get like a liberal audience to root for an incel, right? And if you can get like a Republican audience to root for a social justice warrior, right? Like if you can get people to be like, there is no way these two will ever... And if you can tell the story that eventually they do connect it, it could heal America. Liberals would root for an incel. I got to tell you, I actually think the incel narrative is way more sympathetic than the social justice warrior narrative. I think people would I think that would be the most shocking thing for people. I think that if you were to tell a good story in this vein, I think it would blow a lot of people away that the audiences would be like, the incel guy. I was really rooting for the incel guy. Because the culture is so fucked right now, right? Incel gets laid would pack theaters. I mean, 40-year-old virgin, right? Yeah, you're right about this, XD, and you're right. I should clarify. Yeah, XD writes, by the way, John, we are of the understanding that while people still colloquially use the term incel, the term has long evolved to encompass something larger and worse than dude who can't get laid. Yeah, it's tied with fascism and white supremacy. Yes, like the people who are like the real true, like the true incels, like not just the guys who are like, oh, I'm really struggling to find a girl, and I go to the gym and I work out, and just and when I do get a date, it just seems like everything's kind of like like that guy, right? But like, there are definitely people who are these incel types who basically are just looking for patriarchal slavery, right? Like they want women to be their slaves. You like, you listen to these guys talk. And it's not like coded, right? Like I've seen some of these guys who talk about women, and they're literally like, women should be my servants, and they should be subservient to me. You're like, oh, okay, bud, I can't imagine why people are why you're struggling to in like a post-feminist society, in a society where women actually have economic freedom. Yeah, I'm really struggling to see why you are finding a woman to interact with. Like that. Look, to me, the whole thing, and I really do think the whole thing comes down to the income inequality and the material conditions that exist in the society, right? Like, romance is hard. Romance is extremely difficult in the first place. That's why people like romance movies, right? Because if you're telling a romance movie correctly, everybody knows. Like, if you watch a movie and a guy approaches a girl to talk to her romantically, you're watching a guy on a tightrope. You're watching, like, a guy really go out there and do something dramatic, especially in this, like, post-internet dating age. The idea that a guy would just approach a woman is like I remember I went on some dates with some women, and I was just like cold approaching women. And they would tell me, like, nobody does this. Like, nobody does this. You're like the only guy who's ever done this to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. And that by itself was what got me in the door. It's just that they were like, oh, sure. Right? And so if you were to tell that film, or if you were to make that film or make that story, right, I think a lot of people would be watching this being like, oh my God, like, Right? And the sense of rejection and the sense of being crushed which is so funny because when I was a kid, it was like ubiquitous. Like almost every film had that scene where a guy approached a girl and was rejected. And then his friends would be like, ooh, right? Right? Well, it was everywhere. And now it's nowhere. It doesn't exist. Like, it's just, the stories aren't being told. And and I'm of the opinion that if you're not actually telling romance stories in your society, then you're not really engaging seriously with your society on a basic human level. Like, love and sex is just like the basement of humanity. It's the absolute foundation of humanity. And if you're not telling the stories of how people find love and interact with one another romantically in this situation, how do we even have an idea or a sense of who we are or what's going on around us? Like, I'd love to see like When Harry Met Sally. I'd love to see like The Notebook of this next generation, right? Where is this shit, right? And it just kind of seems like it's almost become kind of taboo to even talk about it, or even like and to me, I think the reason why these romance stories don't get told in the modern era is because if you were to tell a romance story about people in the modern era, you have to start with, so everybody's broke. Right? The first thing you have to do is just admit that everybody's fucking broke. And so, yeah, who's going to fund that? What billionaire capitalist is going to fund a story that starts with, so everybody's poor? Because it completely upsets the apple cart of their own imagined reality of what this is, of what their society is. That the people who fund films, the billionaire class, the people who have all the wealth, they want to believe they live in a prosperous society and that they stand atop a prosperous society. And they don't. And the reason why they don't live in a prosperous society is because they took it. They took the prosperity. Like, hold on. I have it. It's right here. I swear to God. It's coming. Yeah. This is from Americans for Tax Fairness. Check this out. If we wanted to get back to the wealth distribution of the 1980s, the richest 0.1% would have to transfer $10 trillion to the bottom 90%. Each household would get $82,000. And the rich would still have over $100 million on average. Trickle down broke us. And it's because of this. It's because of this fundamental material reality of what the society actually looks like that romance stories can't get told, and people are struggling to find romance in reality because everybody's fucking broke. And so what you have is a society of people like treading water. Like, everybody's been abandoned into an ocean where everyone is individually treading water. And the very last thing that you want if you're treading water is somebody to come along and grab a hold of you. And the only person you would ever want to come over and grab a hold of you if you were treading water is somebody in a boat. Nobody's in a goddamn boat. There's 10% of the people, right, who are living, who have a boat. Not a good boat, just a boat. Right? And then there's 0.1% of people who have super yachts that are completely empty. Like, I feel like once you imagine society in this way, as people abandoned in an ocean, and that wealth is represented by boats, it makes total sense what's going on. It makes total sense why people are struggling to find connection and community and romance and all that kind of stuff, because everybody's fucking broke. Like, you're not gonna you're not gonna find love. Like you live with 4 roommates. Well, you gonna have a girl over? She lives with 4 roommates too. She gonna have you over? Like, and so everybody turns to pornography. Right? This is the opiate that we've all been given to sort of soothe the balm of the burn of our depression and our disparities. Right? And that if you're treading water, you don't want somebody to grab a hold of you. Yeah. And that's true on all departments, on all ways. And the other thing that the internet has really done is that it's created a false sense of community. It's created a false sense of a wider community. Like, if you're on Tinder, you have this false sense that you are in a community, and you're not. Like, you're not. You're talking to a stranger. And if that stranger wants to disappear, they will. Right? Like, if you're driving a half an hour, or if you're getting on the transit and going a half an hour to go see somebody, they're a stranger. And if they want to disappear from your life, they will. So, everything's just a hookup. And everything's just temporary, and you're never actually building roots. And because of the nature of the internet, your field of possible candidates to engage in this goes from, like, the people who are around you, which is what it has always been traditionally, to literally the entire city. So it goes from, like, you know, let's say 10,000 possible mates to 6 million. Jeez Louise. Hull writes, but wouldn't it be more of an incentive to actually couple up and co-join each finance's capabilities to push through this difficult economy? I mean, that makes a type of sense, but unfortunately relationships are fucking hard. Right? Like, a real relationship between a man and a woman is fucking tough. It's hard. It's a difficult thing. And a lot of people are just like, it's just not worth it. Like, it's just better to go it alone. And, like, live with my sister. Like, live with my brother. Live with my friend. Like, I have a roommate. We barely see each other. He's the best roommate ever. Right? Like, I have my space. He has his. We share the bathroom. We share the kitchen. And, like, we keep to ourselves. So that's not a romantic relationship. A romantic relationship is a whole other ball of wax. It's tough. And I just think that when you create the material conditions to make it easier to go it alone, people do that. Right? Like, human behavior is dictated by material conditions. Material conditions dictate human behavior. And if you create a society that says it's just easier to be alone, then people will do that. Hull says, "Cause let's be real with women chasing men with status, they aren't really liberal. It's all hierarchy based." No, I think it's just like really, really like the first thing a person looks for is stability. And so like I think it's common for people to be like, "Oh, women are just chasing after money. Women are just chasing after money." I think women are just looking for stability. I think that they would like their partner to be stable, right? But we live in a destabilized society. So when a woman looks out at her options in a destabilized society, they're going to find a lot of unstable men. A lot of destabilized men. That's what they're going to find. And I think that it's completely reasonable for a woman, especially a woman who does have some form of stability, to be like, I would also like my partner to have stability. But those people are few and far between. You live in a highly destabilized society. And I think that's normal. I think men want stability. I think men would like a stable partner, right? And it used to be that the economy was rigged up in such a way that the men were the ones bringing the stability. The men were the ones going and getting the job, thereby getting the money, thereby bringing the stability. And so women were getting involved with men because men were the stabilizing force, right? Well, now the society has changed so that men are not the stabilizing force, and that women can find that stability by themselves sometimes, theoretically. But you live in an economy that if one person has stability for themselves, they probably aren't able to also bring stability for themselves and another person. You can only stabilize yourself. And so, two people who have stability built on their own right, for them, so you got stable person one, stable person two, and they've stabilized their own lives, right? They have a job, they're making money, they live in an apartment, they have a thing going on, they're stable. So for them to and actually become a thing, they have to inherently destabilize themselves in order to do this. So the act of love, the act of connection, of marriage and moving in with one another and having a relationship is intrinsically and inherently destabilizing. So people are completely disincentivized to do it. So they don't. Borg says, men want humor and sanity in a partner. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really... Baldy, you have a good night too, my man. I think it's all just on the shocker chart. Like, I do think that humans are like this. It's stability, humor, self-confidence, or self-love, love for other people, honesty, integrity, and goodness. Like that's the way it goes. Like that's the structure of it. That the first thing people and nobody's walking around being like, I'm looking for a stable person who is stable, right? Nobody says that, but that is, you are intrinsically looking for that. Like you're not going to bring in a homeless person. You're just not. Like, you might care about that homeless person, you might volunteer your time, you might do all that kind of stuff, but like, you're probably not going to date that person. Like, that person's having an extreme crisis. And to me, like, if you wanted to have a society of people who are suddenly dating and suddenly getting connected with one another and coupling up, first thing you need to do is make sure everybody has stability, and make sure that and that stability, that getting with a person isn't inherently destabilizing. Like, think about this. Like, really think about this, man. Like, you've got a man and a woman. The man is living in an apartment, maybe with a roommate, maybe not, right? But let's say not. So a man's living by himself, and let's say she's living by herself, and they decide, okay, we're going to move in. Okay, well, who's giving up their apartment? Well, let's say they both decide to give up the apartment that they're in, and they both decide to move in together in a new apartment. Okay? Well, let's say they move in together, and then 2-3 months later, they're like, this isn't working, we need to break up. So now they both need to find a new fucking apartment. Like, do you see how risky this is? Do you see how terrifyingly scary this is? Like, the process of actually getting into a relationship with a person and moving in with one another and proceeding forward. Do you see how terrifyingly destabilizing this is? It's not a mystery to me at all why nobody's connecting with one another. There's no mystery to me even a little tiny bit. Like, why is hookup culture so prevalent? Because fucking actually moving in with somebody is goddamn insane. Are you kidding? Like, and you've seen rental prices, and they're only going up. So if you've been living in a place for like 5 years, then your rent is definitely lower than the rent you're going to find. And if it doesn't work out with this person, right? Well, then guess what? Congratulations. Now you're probably going to end up paying like 40% more for the exact same situation you started in. So it's a terrifying situation for everybody. Like, it's a terrifying situation for everybody. And people have crunched the number. It's just not worth doing. It's just not worth doing. And then our boomer parents are like, why aren't you getting married and having kids? Because you fucked our economy completely. Because we can't. Like, we can't. You've turned something that used to be like literally just a natural part of life, right? Just, yep, you grow up, you meet a girl, you get married, you have some kids, you live together, right? You've turned it all into this just like tightrope walk where every single decision is absolutely terrifying. And it's only gotten worse. Like, there is a 0% chance that anybody in Gen Z, once they turn 30, like, when you're a kid, you'll do this kind of shit. Like, you'll smash in and you'll go whatever and do and throw your chips in and all that kind of stuff, whatever. You know, if you're living in university and you're going to move out of university anyway and you're going to go to, oh, I'm moving out with my parents, yeah, fine, right? The second you turn 30, you're not doing this shit. Are you crazy? Like, you're basically saying to somebody who's 30 or 40, hey, why don't you potentially face homelessness because you like a girl? Nah, thanks, brah. And to me, this is the absolute foundation of what's going on. And that instead of people actually discussing this point that I'm discussing, that the economic situation that we're living in has destabilized romantic relationships completely, instead of that, men look at women and say bitches be like, and women look at men and say dudes be like. And that's what's happening, right? And nobody's actually having the serious foundational conversation that affects both parties. Like I bet bitches be crazy when they can't make rent. Yeah, I bet dudes be stressed and angry when they can't make rent. Yeah, I bet. Right? I bet. Well, on that note, hey, I made it. I made it to 9 o'clock. I didn't think I was going to make it. I'm going to go to bed, man. I'm a sleepy bunny. Always remember, guys, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.